Hey, what's going on, guys? Mock draft time. A lot of new stuff in the NFL has been happening. Coaching hires is almost done. And going back on the mock drafts. A lot of new stuff in the NFL. Super Bowl time. Uh, Good time for the offseason. Teams are looking to see where they go in the offseason. Now, for the first pick, Jaguars. I had them in my last mock draft going with Evan Neal, and I'm going to stick with that. They just got Doug Peterson as their head coach, and I think he's an offensive philosophy. He's taken offensive tackle in Lane Johnson before, and I see them going number one. If a team doesn't want to trade up for one of the top edge rushers, they could be in a trade down spot, but they're going with Evan Neal in my mock draft. And then I'm sticking with Aiden Hutchinson for the Lions. Makes sense. From Michigan, probably the best player in this class, next to Ika Mekwonu and Evan Neal. Number 3 with the Texans. A big rumor is that Kayvon Thibodeaux is dropping in boards due to his effort, production. Only been in school for 3 years as a junior, and had some effort concerns. Even though he did get injured, and he's been injured I'm pretty sure he got injured his freshman year and this year. He had an ankle injury this year, and then the production last year was halted due to him only playing around 6 games. But I still don't think he's gonna fall because I feel his ceiling is still so high, but his floor is lower than guys like Aiden Hutchinson. And would the Texans want to be going with a center fielder like Kyle Hamilton? I would say they could either. I think they're in a main trade down spot, possibly to the Giants if they want to take Thibodeaux, or if they want to make sure that they beat the Jets out on Ika Mekwonu, which I see happening. I think the Giants could trade up to 3 and then take Ika Mekwonu. But the Jets at 4, offensive tackle and edge rusher are the biggest needs. But in my opinion, as a Jets fan, I think that edge is the biggest need because we saw last year Carl Lawson, he got hurt. Bryce Huff went on IR twice, and Vinny Curry had a blood clot, and the edge depth was destroyed. So I think one of the main focuses for the Jets offseason is edge rusher. But if we address it in free agency or we trade for someone like Danielle Hunter, then offensive tackle becomes the main need. But at the same time, we have George Fant and Mekhi Becton. Mekhi Becton had his knee dislocated and missed the entire year. George Fant had his breakout year. But George Fant only has 1 year left on his contract, and Ika Mekwonu has guard flexibility, so you can play him at guard and then move him to tackle. But in my opinion, if Kayvon Thibodeaux falls at 4 to the Jets, you have to take him. Number 5, if Ika Mekwonu falls, or if Evan Neal falls to the Giants, have to take him. 6 for the Panthers. Panthers are in an interesting position. They could draft from Malik Willis and hope that he does a lot better than Sam Darnold. But are you going to take that risk? I mean, this quarterback class isn't too talented. Their ceilings aren't too high, other than Malik Willis, who I think is QB1 after the Senior Bowl. But I think right now I would go with one of the safe picks in Charles Cross. I mean, their offensive line wasn't good again this year, and Charles Cross is probably one of the best pass blocking tackles. And then Giants are back up at 7, who I could see them going with either Jermaine Johnson or David Njabo. Jeremiah Johnson, Senior Bowl standout. I had him in my last video, and the hype around him has been increasing and increasing to maybe even going in the top 15. So would the Giants go with someone like Jeremiah Johnson or David Njabo, whose ceiling is also incredibly high, but his floor is low, kind of like Kayvon Thibodeaux? Or they go someone like linebacker, which they haven't taken in a long time. They haven't taken a linebacker. But I do think that edge right now is kind of a bigger need because they really don't have anybody other than Azeez Ojulari, who they drafted last year. But for me, it's either linebacker or it's edge. I'm going to go Jeremiah Johnson, say that the Senior Bowl hype got to the Giants. They pick him at 7. At 8, the Falcons. I see them going either IDL or edge here. it's either going to be Jordan Davis or someone like David Ajabo. Maybe George Karlaftis, who is falling down boards more, because he is a safer pick. He's a safer edge rusher, but I don't think he's going to give you like 10 sack seasons, 15 sack seasons. His ceiling's a lot lower, but his floor is a lot higher. So I could see them going with someone like David Ajabo, whose ceiling is so high and is relatively new to football. Started playing at his sophomore year in high school, I'm pretty sure. And then he played across Aiden Hutchinson as well and put up great numbers, great pressure numbers. So now the Broncos at 9. I could definitely see them taking someone like Malik Willis and go try to rebuild the quarterback or rebuild the organization. And they just got the Packers offensive coordinator. I'm forgetting his name, but I could definitely see them going with Malik Willis if they don't try to move for a quarterback this offseason. Maybe Aaron Rodgers, but we'll have to wait on that. And then is it a little too early for edge rusher? And I don't think they need cornerback. I don't think cornerback is one of their top needs. Just because they just drafted Surtain, they have Bryce Callahan, and they have some other guys on the outside. So this is the big question. Are you going to go with the quarterback, or are you going to go edge? For me, I'm going to go with Malik Willis here because I don't think he gets out of the top 10 with all the hype and his pro days coming up as well. So we're going to have to see on that. So now the Jets are back up at 10. And I think at this position, if they don't trade or address receiver in free agency, they have to go with a big play receiver. So it's the thing here. For me, my top 3 is Treylon Burks, Garrett Wilson, and Drake London, who's all the way down here. But he's 6'5", 210, and he runs routes. He runs routes decently well. He runs routes well for his size. He's got the Mike Evans build, and you got someone like Garrett Wilson, who's an elite separator, but he's 6 feet tall. But at the same time, one of the best 50-50 ball receivers. And Treylon Burks, who's 6'3" and plays like Deebo Samuel. So the Jets have options here at 10. They could be in a possible trade down scenario if somebody wants to. If the Broncos don't pick Malik Willis, I can see someone like the Saints or the Steelers, who are very high on Malik Willis reportedly, or another team high like maybe the Tampa Bay or Green Bay, go try to get a quarterback. But I see them going with receiver. And for me, personally, I would probably go with either Drake London or Treylon Burks. Garrett Wilson, even though an elite separator, I think that Zach Wilson's accuracy, right now, his accuracy doesn't warrant for a route runner, more like a 50-50 ball. Example, Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield played with someone like Odell and Jarvis Landry, and his accuracy sometimes screws him there. But when he throws the ball to guys like Donovan Peoples-Jones, he's able to hit him because he's a 50-50 ball receiver. So I'm going to go with Drake London, Treylon Burks. But for me, Treylon Burks is my receiver 1. Plays like Deebo Samuel. I think that Mike LaFleur is going to have a field day with him. So the Commanders, my fault, I was going to say the football team. The Commanders are back up, and I see them going quarterback. I mean, Taylor Heineke is not an elite quarterback, and if you're looking to move forward, you need to draft a receiver, and you can't waste Terry McLaurin's prime. So, for me right now, Kenny Pickett is QB2 or QB1 next to Malik Willis. So they're going to go with him. The Vikings, I could see cornerback, or if Kyle Hamilton drops all the way, I would see them snagging him. And I would say that for me, CB1 is Sauce Gardner. I think Stingley's injury issues and his production outside of his freshman year is going to hurt him in his draft stock. I could see him going farther down the boards. So for me, Sauce Gardner is going up in the draft to 12 at the Vikings. Now, Cleveland, they have to go receiver. I can see them potentially making a move for quarterback, but I think it's less likely. And I think that if they're able to get Treylon Burks or Garrett Wilson. So I accidentally picked Chris Olave, but I meant to pick Garrett Wilson, and I don't realize that until around pick 18, but I fixed it. Also, just something, I think that Jameson Williams is going to fall down board significantly due to his ACL tear in the national championship against Georgia. Now, the Ravens on the board. It's the trenches. It's just the trenches. If you're able to get Jordan Davis here, I could potentially see them going here. And also, they could go with someone like Tyler Linderbaum, who's been mocked to them a lot. But if Jordan Davis falls, I think you have to snag him. The best run defender probably. And he's 6'6". He's massive, and massive interior defensive stopper essentially. I really like where the Eagles are in this draft. They're directly in the middle, and they're just going to be picking whoever falls. I mean, I could especially with some of the quarterbacks going around this spot, they're in a really prime position to get the players that are going to fall out of maybe the top 15 due to teams trying to trade up for quarterback. So for them, with their first pick, I could see them going with Derek Stingley. Derek Stingley, CB2 in my opinion. Sauce Gardner falls all the way. And then for their next pick, you can see them going with someone like George Karlaftis, or you go with Trayvon Walker out of Georgia, who is 6'5", 270, and moves very well. And he plays on the 5 tech, 7 tech, as far as 9. He can play a little bit of coverage. He's like a bigger Micah Parsons, essentially, with less coverage. And he can play inside a little bit more. But that's who I see a little bit. But he's just bigger and not as fast though. But he is still fast. I'm gonna mock him going to 16. The Chargers probably shouldn't have called a timeout against the Raiders and been in the playoffs. But anyways, this is Trevor Penning all the way. Trevor Penning at the Senior Bowl was a monster. He was dominant. He is a little raw because he is out of Northern Iowa, an FCS school. But at the Senior Bowl, he did well against some FBS players. But there were little flaws in his game. Sometimes he would stand up a little too tall and wait a little bit too much. But at the same time, still dominated. Was a nasty, quote-unquote nasty player. Just physical player. Played through the whistle. All that type of stuff. Okay, small mistake. I accidentally picked Chris Olave for the Browns, and I fixed that. And then I accidentally skipped over the part where I went with Drake London for the Saints. Just to explain why Drake London's probably a top 3 receiver in the class, and the Saints really didn't have a receiver this year due to Mike Thomas being out the entire year. And I don't know where they go with quarterback, but I don't think any quarterback is right now worth going at 18. Eagles back up. I can see them building through the trenches, either Kenyon Green or Linderbaum. They already drafted Landon Dickerson last year in the second round, who will be the heir to Jason Kelsey, who could retire this year. So I don't think they need to go with center like Tyler Linderbaum, who only has played center. So he would play basically a bench role. So I think someone like Kenyon Green or Zion Johnson, who has a lot of flexibility interior. He played left guard and right guard and tackles. And then he played center at the Senior Bowl, who has a lot of flexibility. I can see them going with him or Kenyon Green, but I think Kenyon Green is probably guard 1 or 2. And then I think Zion Johnson's also 1 or 2. The Steelers, I could see them. I definitely could see them going with quarterback way earlier. And going to someone like maybe the Jets. Maybe they trade up with Jets. But it's plain and simple. It's quarterback. I think maybe they could have tried to go with quarterback last year and then have him sit behind Roethlisberger, maybe get him a little work in. But you didn't know what this quarterback class was going to look like. And I think that the best quarterback now is Matt Corral, who played in an RPO system at Ole Miss and who is a little short. So I don't know how great of a fit he is at Pittsburgh. I think that they should 100% try to trade up for Malik Willis, who they reportedly really like. So I think they should try to trade up. The Patriots, this is a cornerback. You traded Stephon Gilmore, J.C. Jackson, I think the UDFA, if he's not re-signed, or if I'm not mistaken. And I think that the next best cornerback right now is either Trent McDuffie or Andre Booth Jr. And I see Trent McDuffie just going a lot higher. The hype around him in the draft community is increasing. The Raiders, this is plain and simple. Build through the trenches as much as you can. As you see, the biggest team needs. They ignored they didn't ignore offensive line last year, but they just picked probably the worst first round pick this year in the Alabama tackle. Can't get my name to a face. But anyways, he was bad. And I think that they should be building through the trenches anyways. Their offensive line is below average. So this is the thing. Do you draft Linderbaum, who's probably the best center prospect that we've seen in a long time, or do you go with Zion Johnson, who has a lot of flexibility? I would say you're going to have to go with Tyler Linderbaum. You already traded away Rodney Hudson last year. So you got to replace him. You got to go center. The Cardinals, this is best cornerback available, and this is going to be Andre Booth Jr. Kind of an easy pick. They could also go with offensive line, or they could go with receiver, but I don't think they're going to go with receiver. And a little bit of Kyler Murray controversy with him deleting all the Arizona stuff. Don't know what's going to happen with that. The Cowboys, or the Cowgirls, with pick 24. This is edge or safety. Safeties really shouldn't be going this high. Deontay Wyatt and DeMarvin Leal, I think, could go in this spot. Just depends what they do in free agency. Defensive tackles, in recent memory, haven't really been working out for them. So this is the thing. Are you gonna draft one of the edge rushers, like George Karlaftis? Maybe you go with Ebiketie, or you go someone like Logan Hall, and then you try to get another edge rusher next to Micah Parsons, or do you go with IDL and you try to address edge rusher? This is all what they do in free agency. If they go defensive tackle, you go edge. If they go edge, you go defensive tackle. And for me, DeMarvin Leal's hype has really gone down from the beginning of the year, where he was mocked top 10, and Deontay Wyatt's hype has gone up a lot due to him even playing over someone like Jordan Davis and wreaking havoc in the trenches. Also played in the Senior Bowl. But I think that DeMarvin Leal is still a better pass rushing prospect than Deontay Wyatt, who's a main pass rusher. The Buffalo Bills. This could be interior offensive line and edge, or it could be cornerback if you can't bring back some of the depth cornerbacks. You had Tre'Davious White tore his ACL this year, and we don't know how long he's going to be down for. They could also go with receiver. Emmanuel Sanders is on a 1-year deal. And this is the thing for me. You want to keep on improving your offense. Something like, for example, the Bengals, who focused to go with weapons for their quarterback instead of going with the trenches pick or the BPA. It depends what you want to do. But I think that the Buffalo Bills should continue to build weapons around Josh Allen. Josh Allen's going to need to sign a contract soon. He's on his 5th-year option right now, and I think he's going to re-sign. And you want to make sure you don't waste his rookie contract. So I think that they should go with receiver if they don't, once again, try to address receiver like they did Emmanuel Sanders. But this is the thing. Which out of these would you go with? Would you go with Jameson Williams, who tore his ACL, and you don't know when he's going to be back and how fast or explosive he's going to be? Do you go with Jahan Dotson, who has one of the best catch radiuses and played in Penn State in the north in the cold, and he has experience with that, and he's probably one of the best hands in the draft? Or do you go with someone like Chris Olave, who is similar to Garrett Wilson, but he's just kind of a step down? What I think that the Bills should probably go with Jahan Dotson or Jameson Williams. Jameson Williams has the speed. Jahan Dotson has the catch radius. But for me, if you get Jameson Williams, your team immediately becomes so much better. We saw what he did at Alabama, and I think that the ACL injury hopefully will heal itself. And not a great sign for the rest of the AFC East, as the Buffalo Bills get a lot better receiver. Now the Titans, this is linebacker. Their interior, their ILB year this year was pretty weak overall. But this is the thing: do you go with Nakobe Dean or do you go with Devin Lloyd? Now, Devin Lloyd has the size, but also Nakobe Dean has the range. He's a much rangier linebacker, kind of like Roquan Smith a little bit, and he's a leader on the field, captain. But for me, you got to go with Devin Lloyd. The size, I think, with Nakobe Dean hurts him a little bit, and the strengths of the Titans is up front. So I would say they would go with Devin Lloyd, who's my linebacker one, even though Nakobe Dean's are very close too. The Buccaneers are in a really interesting spot. Tom Brady retired, thank God. But I think they say receiver is their main need. But are you really going to start Kyle Trask at quarterback? But also, are you going to draft Desmond Ridder? Or wait next year, you're probably going to be bad. Or you can go get Aaron Rodgers. Or you could try to get another quarterback, like a bridge quarterback, maybe Matt Ryan. So I think that the receiver is going to be the pick here. Antonio Brown basically quit. And then you might not be able to bring back... I don't know why I'm forgetting his name. Chris Godwin, sorry. You might not be able to bring back Chris Godwin, and you just got to replace him with another Penn State guy. Chris Godwin went to Penn State. You're going to get Jahan Dotson, who plays pretty similarly. The Packers, this is edge or offensive tackle, but at the same time, you're not going to get Aaron Rodgers. Devonta Adams probably not going to re-sign. And then the Aaron Rodgers era probably ends in Green Bay. So do you just immediately address quarterback? Do you let Jordan Love, who hasn't really shown anything, do you let him get another chance? Which I think you do. I think they should probably go edge here. Someone like George Karlaftis, whose slip finally ends. Had George Karlaftis going 4 in my last mock draft, and now he's going 28. Yeah, that's what can change in 2 weeks. Miami Dolphins. They just got the San Francisco offensive coordinator, Mike O'Connell, who I don't want to say he's an offensive mastermind, but I mean, he was definitely the best offensive coordinator last year. He used Deebo Samuel in every which way possible and got a lot of efficiency out of his players. So I think they should go with receiver. I think they should try to do similar things with the best receiver on the board. And if it's Chris Olave, if it's Dade Bell, if it's Mechie, I think they should go with receiver all day. Hopefully one of them falls. Now, with Kansas City, they're in an interesting spot. Their window could possibly close. I mean, they lost to the Bengals. And big contracts are coming up. That cap hit from Patrick Mahomes is going to hit next year. So it's what do you do here? Do you try to keep on getting him weapons with someone like Mechie? I mean, your receiver 1, receiver 2 are both very fast. They're both fast guys, but Tyreek Hill is he's starting to get older. It doesn't feel like it at all, but he's starting to get older. And you have Terry McLaurin, who still has some drop issues. So do you want to go with a safety net like John Mechie, or do you want to go with Drake Bell, who I don't see going in the first round, or if late at best? I see them going with safety net, John Mechie. So the Bengals are up. This is an obvious pick. It's offensive tackle, offensive tackle, offensive tackle. Do you go with someone like Bernard Raymond, who is extremely raw out of Central Michigan, and he played tight end. I'm pretty sure, last year or the year before, and then he switched to offensive tackle, and he's shown a lot of stuff. Or do you want to go with Daniel Fa'alele, who is also raw, but he's also 6'8", 380. But at the same time, he's pretty stiff, and it also is raw. So I could see them going with Bernard Raymond, who's also massive, but is more athletic. And the Lions, a.k.a. this is the Rams pick that they got from Matthew Stafford. And I can see them addressing cornerback, but Roger McCreary. And that will do it for the mock draft. Let me know your thoughts and your comments about anything about the draft. Let me know players that you're high on, players you think your team could be in the range of picking. And make sure you like, comment, and subscribe.